Bye, you're very welcome. It is Sunday, the 4th of August, 2024, which, of course, we all know means it is time for... Wankers of the Week. Yes, time for Wankers of the Week. And those who know me will not be surprised that this week's recipients are the violent, racist, neo-Nazi thugs who brought havoc onto the streets of Belfast yesterday. In this instance, the neo-Nazis across the UK hijacked the horrific murder of 3 young girls in Southport as their justification to attack what they term Muslim invaders and anyone of colour. But I will pay money. I'll make a bet of money that if you had taken any one of those thugs and asked them the names of those wee girls, they wouldn't have a clue. And as a point of interest and information here, the arrested 17-year-old who carried out this heinous crime was in fact a Christian. He wasn't Muslim. Indeed, he was a choir boy in his local church. But he was black. And that's all the fascists needed to attack police, burn local businesses, and attempt to incite fear in anyone who wasn't white. Now, here's the notification which was shared on Antisocial media locally, announcing the attempt of the thugs to bring their country to a standstill. Now, let's leave aside the abysmal grammar, which is to be expected. Let's also forgive their sketchy grasp of geography, as those living in and around Carlisle Circus will no doubt be shocked to discover that they've suddenly been moved into West Belfast. The fact that the protests were starting at noon, I didn't find that surprising either, as those taking part would invariably only be crawling out of their beds at this hour every day of the week. What did strike me as shocking was the direction that women and children were to be brought to the front. There was a time when the cry, women and children first, only occurred during a disaster, such as at sea when lifeboats were being launched. No longer, not with these cowardly wee bastards. Oh no, they were obviously happy to use their women and children as a shield for their nefarious activities. And keeping on the nautical theme, it's amazing what historical insights we can learn from taking some questions from the protesters. Like just listen to what the insight that this lady had.
Put it another way, when you got the Titanic and they filled it with too many people, what happened? It sunk.
And there we've been thinking for over 100 years that the Titanic sank due to a collision with an iceberg. No! It went down due to being overcrowded with Al-Qaeda immigrants. It would be funny if it wasn't tragic. I feel it's also important to point out another glaring inconsistency in demanding that women and children be used as a shield, considering one of the proclaimed aims of the protesters was to protect their women and children from the invading immigrants. No matter, that wouldn't understand. There did indeed seem to be some degree of organisation, well, as much organisation as you can achieve among a bunch of imbeciles, as a contingent of Dublin thugs arrived in Belfast, resulting in the most surreal sight imaginable, namely of both tricolour and Union flags being waved side by side outside Belfast City Hall. It does make you wonder, however, what the whole flag protest was when they took the Union flag down, considering they're now waving the tricolour. It doesn't matter. They wouldn't understand. And for those who argued that those participating in the protest were merely concerned residents and citizens, we had the insane sight of a man giving a Nazi salute at Belfast City Hall while standing only a matter of feet away from an Israeli flag. I do not have the time to unpack what's wrong with that. Now, the upsurge in far-right politics and racist thuggery is nothing new. Indeed, I've dealt with it before, after the election of Lillian Senaway Barr as the Mayor of Derry last May. My characterisation of her detractors still stands, and I think it sums up what the vast majority of us think of the fascists who attempted but failed to take over Belfast yesterday. The vast majority, thankfully, actually think of yous. Because you're viewed as a bunch of collagen-depleted, intellectually impaired, inbred, shit-eating, waste of sperm, flat earth-believing, COVID-denying nonentities so desperate for attention, you need to attack the weak and disadvantaged rather than get off your lazy arses and actually contribute something positive to the society you accuse others of destroying. Due to your blatant inadequacies, we desperately need fresh blood into our society, which will hopefully soon deplete your defective genotype and lead to a more inclusive and productive nation. In truth, the real rationale of those taking part seemed to be a mix of criminal looting and the targeting and destruction of businesses owned by immigrants, no matter from where. This is what was going on outside a restaurant just off the centre of Belfast. Another target was a barber shop I often pass while travelling along Sandy Row. Now just listen to those attempting to burn it down as they beat their bats off the ground like something out of the 19th century, goading whoever's inside to come out. And when a woman intervenes trying to say there may be children inside, not one bit of a difference does it make to the giggling, bat-wielding morons.
Come on!
Not far away, another business owned by a man from Syria was completely destroyed. This is what that poor man had to say when he was asked what he would say to those who had destroyed his business.
And what's your message for the people who did this?
Don't know. There is no message for people like this. When people do like this, when people do something like this, do you think that they will accept even the message?
Remember, that business was built by that man from nothing to where it was. And he's now to start over again, while the thugs who destroyed it are on handouts since they were old enough to get them. For those of us who can read and have some knowledge of history, which of course excludes those taking part in the destruction and protesting, we recognise what happened on Saturday as our own very small version of Kristallnacht, when Nazi thugs, using the burning of the Reichstag in 1938 as their justification, to destroy Jewish businesses right across Germany. Indeed, the bullies with the cudgels, if they do come from Sandy Row, would no doubt have had brave family members who not only fought but gave their lives to defeat the Nazi regime. We can't but wonder what those brave men would think of their great-grandchildren's actions today. Thankfully, there was some karma on the day, as rioters on the Big Island discovered that rioting and drinking really don't mix. First off, we have a man who will be sitting with an ice pack on his balls for some weeks to come. And here we have an idiot who failed to comprehend that police dogs don't understand English. Or maybe the dog in question does, and took great offence when the taunting thug screamed at the police, "You can't touch me, I pay your wages."
Oh!
Get fucked now! Get fucked!
Whoa! The same brave hero cried like a child when he subsequently appeared before the courts for his behaviour. Now, on a personal note, I'd reason to be brought into hospital on Tuesday past due to a ongoing back injury which flared up dramatically. I once again witnessed the stress under which the NHS is forced to operate. I was given the very best of care by paramedics Stephen, Audrey and Laura in the ambulance and Nurse Chrissy when I arrived in the Royal Victoria Hospital. But it was a British Asian orthopaedic surgeon whose name I never caught because I was in so much pain I couldn't even remember my own name, who realised I was on the wrong medication, and having changed it, I was able to return home within a matter of hours. Because without the service of thousands of migrant surgeons, doctors, nurses and chemists, what's left of our creaking NHS would grind to a halt within days. And I will make this assertion with absolute certainty. If any of those far-right thugs who protested on Saturday suffered a serious enough injury to need hospitalisation, which I hope a few did, not too serious, but just enough. Yeah, well, I guarantee their aversion to foreigners would disappear in an instant if that medic happened to be a foreigner and was their only hope of care or cure. No doubt this video will yet again result in me receiving a tumult of online abuse. Not one shite do I give. I stand with those who have come to make Ireland their home, for we are the last nation in the world to deny that right, considering we have been hemorrhaging our own population around the world for hundreds of years. But finally, let's just have a quick look at the bogus justifications used for the violence and intimidation we witnessed from the anti-immigration, anti-asylum yobs yesterday. Firstly, they argue they're fighting against immigrants taking their jobs, houses, and posing a threat to their women and children. Let's deal with those claims in sequence. Firstly, I'd make an educated guess that if not all, then the vast majority of those protesters arrested and facing the courts in the coming weeks will have unemployed as their occupation, so nobody's stealing their jobs. I've already dealt with the contribution made by our immigrant population to NHS and right across our society. As for housing, that's been an issue for decades as subsequent governments in the pockets of billionaires refused to enact a fair taxation system, which would allow for the building of more affordable homes. So instead of kicking down at immigrants, these morons should be kicking up at politicians and the billionaires who refuse to pay their fair share of tax. Finally, on the issue of the safety of women and children, well, the statistics are both in and they are clear. The greatest danger posed to both doesn't come from immigrants, but from husbands or partners. And such abusers seemingly have common characteristics. For instance, they usually perform below average academically. Many of them have substance abuse issues and exhibit serious anger management issues resulting in regular incidents of physical violence. So, in a perverse fashion, yesterday's protests could have helped stop the abuse of women and children, but only if the authorities had thrown a net over those protesting. For if they had, you would have instantly and exponentially decreased the amount of familial abuse so prevalent in so many homes. Finally, to the many immigrants and asylum families feeling anxious or fear today in Northern Ireland or the north of Ireland, whatever you want to call it, I've got a message. You're not alone. We, the vast majority of the population here, stand with you. For you are more Irish than the vermin waving whatever flags of whatever colour yesterday. You are us, we are you, and this is all our home. And them bastards are never going to change that.
You'll do nothing. You hear me? You'll do nothing.